ever wanted to draw cartoons? Well, this is the place to be. You're going to want to watch the whole video like always because it's absolutely littered with great tips that I thought about on the spot, so if you skip, you'll miss them entirely. Hit that thumbs up and the subscribe button as it really helps the channel, and hit the bell so you never miss a tutorial. Let's get started. Alright, so we're going to start how we draw pretty much every drawing, especially these kinds of characters. We're going to start with kind of like a tall oval for the head. Don't worry about kind of chiseling out any of the features just yet. We're just going to kind of like draw this oval in, and then we're going to kind of actually build shapes on top of that. So just draw that little circle to indicate where the head's going to be, and now draw a very small line down for the neck, and a line across like this for the shoulders. Now our character's kind of facing this way a little bit. To help us to visualize that, might be a good idea to actually cut this oval in half with a bit of a curve like this. Just make some adjustments so you can see that a little bit clearer. I got my preview a little bit too high. So we've cut that in half. If you can visualize it as a 3D object, we've got this kind of curved split. Okay, so then you want to cut it in half again, and see again it's got that slight curve to it. It's kind of facing this way now. And we can show that just by drawing two lines. It's pretty cool. And then cut the top half in half again, and the bottom half in half again. Now make sure you draw these lines lightly, because we are going to be erasing them later. They're just guides to help us draw the face. And now for the torso. So there's two ways of doing this. I'll show you the way with the midline. So we can draw a line that curves down, right down the center of the body, like this. Got a very slight curve to it. It starts here, and it ends here. So it's moved like that much. Okay, we'll just get rid of that. We don't really need that. And then we need to draw another line like this for the hips, and then we can just kind of draw the outsides of the legs, either side of those hips going down. We're not going to go any further than this. The reference picture I'm using is really good, and I quite like the pose, so we're not going to bother with the lower legs on this instance. But that doesn't mean we're really missing out. All the fun stuff's up here anyway. The other way of doing the torso was to basically do what I'm going to do now, so ignoring that midline, you could have started at the shoulder and just drawn a line straight down like that, and start at this shoulder, and draw a line that goes towards that hip but has a bit of a zigzag to it. But you can do that anyway. If you've already drawn the midline, you definitely want to draw this anyway, because this is going to help us block out the shape of the torso. And this bit here is really important. That's the small of his back. And that's going to make the waistcoat actually look like a waistcoat. So now for the arms, I like to draw kind of semicircles either side of the shoulders like this, for where the shoulders are actually going to be. Now this arm is away from the viewer, so we're not going to draw most of it, but we still have to draw a guide for it. Just draw like a zigzag like this. That's the elbow, and it doesn't go as far down as the waist. It stops just kind of shy of the waist here. And then back up, actually I'll keep that circle there, it's useful. And the hand, for now, you can just indicate where the hand is going to be by very gently just drawing a square. And notice how that square is pretty much level with his shoulder. Now that's pretty much perfectly lined up. And now for the other arm pretty much goes straight down. Give it a slight curve, bending outwards. Look how slight that is, very, very subtle curve. And then again, we can just kind of draw a block here for the hand. You'll want to make this block a bit shorter because this hand is clenched. This hand is unfolded, but this hand is clenched around a gun. So you want to make that square pretty kind of short. Alright, so what we'll do, we'll jump in and we'll draw the face first. So I'm going to zoom in actually on that face for you so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to add in all the features. So a good place to start is always the eyes, in my opinion. So the eyes sit along this guideline right here. So we can draw a small eye here, keep it kind of short but wide, kind of a very typical human eye shape. And that eye is pretty much, if you imagine the very, very middle of this kind of area here, I draw a circle around it, that's where you want to position the eye. The other eye is going to be in the middle of the other section. So we're going to draw it riding on that line there, and that's a really good way to build a face. Then we're just going to draw an eyebrow on top of each one. Notice the little angles and curves in these eyebrows. Kind of goes up but also down on the insides. And now for a nose, so a nose is going to start right here in this very, very central part. And we're just going to kind of bring the line down and then flick it out and flick it back in towards that central line. We'll just add a little nostril here. Now, this is a good time to actually draw the shape of the face, so we can start here. It's going to go in a tiny bit at this eye, just a tiny bit, then out a tiny bit for the cheek, and then he's got a bit of gaunt going on. He's kind of a very thin guy, so we need to bring this right in like this. Notice how the line's kind of straightened out now as opposed to being curvy, and we'll add his chin. His chin's quite like chiseled, very kind of Superman chin. We can actually do with a little bit of dip here, if you know what I mean. So bring that in, and then out of it as it reaches the bottom. Then we'll bring the jawline up, well within that original guideline, to about here. And now an ear is just like a big curve, and the top of the ear sits on that guideline there. Okay, so I've brought that out a bit too much there. I'm just going to raise that back so you can better see the shape. So in a tiny bit of the eyes, rounds out a bit of the cheek, but this is quite narrow and straight. And it goes right in towards this kind of blocky chin, and straight up to that jawline there. And now for the hair. So the hair, I think that point there, where those points meet, is a really good place to start. Start by drawing a bit of a V, like this. And then he's got a separation in his hair here, going right to the back. And a little bit over actually, because hair does actually escape the original guideline that we do. You don't want to keep the hair within those guidelines, otherwise it'll look flat. Add a bit of hair here. And there's just a bit of shaved hair here if you want to add a few gentle kind of scratches with your pencil. We'll add a very simple kind of earlobe here. And now for the rest of this hair, we want to bring this in sweeping motions over in this direction. I have done a tutorial on how to draw hair. I will link that now. I actually brought that out too much. That should be up there for you to have a look at. But yeah, we just want to kind of draw hair going in this direction. We've got it all swept to one side. There we go. We want to have a little line there as well, a bit of a curve to show that it's kind of a floppy fringe going all to one side. And there we go. We've got a very characteristic scar going over his eye. I don't know how he got that. Bit of a bad accident. And we'll bring the forehead up underneath that hair there. And for his mouth, he's got a very kind of sorrowful expression, so we'll keep the mouth very small, ever so slight curve upward in the middle, so that the edges look like they're going down a bit. And a bottom lip, just a very small line for the bottom lip. And there we go, that is the head drawn. So I'm just going to get rid of some of these guidelines just so the whole head is a bit clearer for you guys to look at. You don't have to do this just yet. Let's just get rid of some of these because we don't need them anymore. So your head should look something like this when you go over it with a pen later. As for the eyes, we can add a small circle in the very center of this eye and a small one on the right side of this eye, so it looks like he's actually looking at us. And let's get rid of this as well, we don't need that part of the guideline anymore. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom back out and show you guys the whole shebang. And now we can work on the rest of the body. So, we can bring this neck down to about here and here. And now he's got a collar for his shirt, so we'll start there and bring it up and down like that. Then we can close off this neck, wrap it around to the back of that neck, bring that line down to about here, and then meet the point of that collar there. Now for the other side of his collar, we can start in that middle again, flick it out over here, and then bring it to his neck again. You can just kind of close this off here. Now, we're going to round out his shoulders a bit, add a little bit of kind of strength to those shoulders, some traps going on. And we may as well finish his waistcoat while we've started it, so we can start by adding a V here. And notice how that's just a little bit to the left of my midpoint, and because his chest is a little bit puffed out. So that's kind of where his spine would be, I guess, and this is where the front of his chest is. And now we can add a tie, so the tie is a... I don't really know how to describe it. Oh, it's more like a trapezium shape with a couple of straps going underneath those collars, and then another similar shape going underneath that waistcoat. And don't forget his little tie clip. Very dapper, very well-dressed gentleman. So now for the front of the waistcoat, we've just got to kind of go over the front of the body, bring it down to about here, just past that waistline, guideline there, and end there in a point, and bring it back up to his waist, and just kind of finish it there for now, because I need to draw some grenades later. Don't forget to button it up, 3 buttons like that. And now for the other bottom of the waistcoat, there, wrap it around the front of his torso, and now you can draw the front of his torso shape. So you might want to bring the chest out a tiny bit before dipping it in a little bit. Try and make that pectoral muscle look quite strong. And then you can just kind of curve this one out and flick it out at the end like that. Lots of little subtle lines, but honestly a lot of subtle details can really make a big difference in any drawing. So now we'll draw one of the arms. So we started with this shape, so now we can just kind of build off that. And draw this down into a sleeve, just draw kind of like a block across for the sleeve. And for his arm, you want to draw it curving in towards the elbow, before then curving out and in again, like this, for the forearm and for the wrist. And now we need to add how this attaches to the torso, which is just kind of like a line like this, swinging down into the back. And there we go, got that kind of waistcoat, sleeveless look for his shirt underneath it. You can add some creases here as well if you want, just kind of some folds at the armpit or something. Now, he's got a gun holstered here. I don't know why he has so many guns, but, you know, I didn't dress him, so... We need to add this funny looking shape here. It's actually like a holster for the gun. And then a strap that goes up from here and forms this kind of rectangular shape. It's got a little button there holding it in place. Now for the gun, it starts here, it flicks up and then down a tiny bit, then across, up and down, and then it has that kind of like very end of the handle of the gun there. I'm just going to kind of make that look a bit more 3D. And the handle goes over here and sits right inside of that part of the holster right there. There's a bit of stitching on the holster if you want to draw that, so we can add that here. Okay, he's got a couple of pockets on his waistcoat, so I'll add those here, just very, very wide rectangles. Okay. And we'll tackle the hands last, because hands are hands are a nightmare. So we'll come to those in a bit. We'll finish all the other details first. We're getting there, we're getting there. So we'll draw this other sleeve like this, and actually stop there. Don't go any further than that, because we've got another gun to draw here. So we'll draw the back of the gun here, a rectangle for the bottom of the handle, and then feed that in towards his torso, like this. And there's another holster just kind of here. Add another line here to make that holster actually look 3D. Don't want a holster looking 2D when the gun itself is very much 3D. So that holster's kind of hiding a bit of the arm, which means we don't have to draw a little bit of it, which is perfectly fine. But speaking of that arm, we will draw this. We'll flick it out a tiny bit for the wrist there. And then as we get to the elbow, we'll curve it towards the torso. And we need another wrist here. Keep the wrist fairly thin. And bend it towards that holster and then away from it like that. So you get that kind of fold effect for his elbow. And now for his trousers. So this part is basically already done. So now we just need to separate the trousers. So we'll add a small kind of V shape here for the crotch. Then there's a belt sitting right along that waistline and just above it. Then a line down like this. Give it a slight curve so it looks like those thighs are made of meat rather than cardboard. And now's a good time to draw in some grenades. So right where we ended this line, we want to draw a ring like this, and then another ring inside it, just so it looks actually, you know, like a pin for a grenade. Then bring a line down in a rectangle like this, and another small rectangle just kind of sitting at the bottom of that. We've got a small bit here behind the ring, and then the actual clip there just kind of hanging off. And we need to do this again, but hidden behind it. So we just basically draw the same thing again, a little bit higher, so we have that, again, that kind of 3D effect. Another clip on this side, and there we go, just kind of nestled in next to his torso. We'll solidify this line here, so it actually looks like his back, because that was still a guideline up until we did that. And now that we've drawn that, we can draw the kind of strap that's just kind of dangling down from his thigh like this. So, big kind of U shape, and finish it about there, because we're going to draw a gun there. And as a matter of fact, we might as well draw that gun now. So, let's get into it. I'm going to zoom in again for you, so you can see quite clearly what I'm doing. Now, as you can see from the preview, let me just show you the preview a little bit. It's got quite a lot of detail going on, so I'm going to walk you through it. As a matter of fact, just so it's a bit easier, I'm going to change the colour of this preview using magic. Let's make it, what colour shall we make it? Let's make it, I think red was pretty good. Let's go with red. Okay, so that means I can have it at a fairly high opacity so I can show you quite clearly what to do. So I think it's probably a good idea to draw the gun first and then draw the hand actually holding the gun. So let's do that. So I think a good place to start would be to draw the overall silhouette of the gun, which is going to be a big rectangle like this. And draw this very lightly because this is just a guide so you know how long and how thick the gun is going to be. Okay? Very gently like that. And now we'll add all the dirty little details. So we might want to start at one of the ends. You can start there or you can start there. I think I'm going to start at this end this time and work my way backwards. So we can chisel out this kind of shape of the bottom of the gun here. It's got like a little kind of a flick before it forms a trigger that ends roughly here. Now this is why we draw the gun first before we draw the hand. If you drew the hand first, the gun's very, very solid, rigid shape would be at the mercy of the hand shape, which isn't right. Hands can reposition in all kinds of shapes. I mean, look at this hand over here. Completely different shape. So the hand needs to bend around the shape of the gun. So we need to draw the gun first, because the gun can't change shape. If that makes sense. I can do a more thorough tutorial on that sometime. But for now we'll just finish off that trigger shape. And it ends here in this kind of very funny kind of mechanical shape. It's kind of like a almost like a cuboid of some kind. It's got a small circle here as well, according to the reference picture I'm looking at. And we've got three kind of stripes sitting on top of this. This is very high detail, by the way. You don't have to draw the gun at all if you don't want to. I understand it's probably a bit daunting. But I'm going to do my best to kind of show you this step by step. There's a small circle there as well. So don't want to get too carried away with this part of the gun. I did say I was going to start here. So again, just kind of round off the end of the gun there, and then draw the actual nozzle of the gun, and then bring this back just within that guideline. As I get to here, the gun starts to go in a little bit, so we'll do that. I don't know my anatomy of guns. I don't really grow up around guns. Being from the UK, we don't really have like much of a gun culture, so guns are kind of a mystery to me. But I know what they look like mostly, and they are mostly just a bunch of 3D shapes like this, and they can get very, very detailed. But this bit here is flat, this bit that I'm colouring in, this is like flat at the top of the gun. And now we need to add some detail to the front of the gun. So we've got this small kind of bit here that assists aiming. Not quite a sight, but you know what I mean. Just a bit at the top of the gun. And now we've got a few stripes along here. They certainly like to put their stripes into these guns. And now there's another kind of curved one going up and over the very, very top of the muzzle of the gun. So you know that word. I know nozzle and muzzle and trigger. Those are the ones I actually do now. And then a third one, but this one actually carries on, has a bit of a jaunt there, and it meets with that little cuboid shape we drew earlier. We've got a little circle here as well. And that's the gun pretty much done. It's ever so slightly simplified from the original design, but the original design is absolutely crazy, and it would take all day to draw by itself. It would really need a tutorial all by itself. And while we're here, now I'll show you how to draw the hand around it. So if you stuck around for this long, you'll be very glad you did, because now I'm going to show you how to draw a fairly realistic hand sitting around a gun. So you want to start here for the thumb. The thumb is just kind of gently clasping around the handle and wraps up to the wrist there. And now this part's the hard bit. This is the actual kind of palm of the hand and the fingers. So I like to start with the part that's holding the gun, which is why I started with the thumb here, and then work my way backwards. So this trigger finger needs to kind of come up like this, bit of a bend to it, like that, there we go, and then just nestle it along where the handle of the gun would be. And now we get to draw these other fingers, 1, 2, and 3. Notice how they're all just knuckles, they're all just kind of folded in. And just make that wrist a bit less prominent. And now we can just kind of draw a trigger kind of behind this finger, and a handle sitting in there where I've coloured it in. Just that's going to be a handle. Okay? I've made it dark because that is going to be very dark in the final image. There's going to be basically no light getting there, because it's covered by a hand pretty much. Okay, so we've got one more hand to do, and it's this hand. And then our drawing is pretty much done at this point. So, let's tackle this together. You want your wrist to be fairly narrow. Make sure your wrist is more narrow than this part, the forearm, where all the muscle is. Okay? And then starting from there, I think a good place to start is to draw a small circle here. Not a perfect circle, kind of taller than it is wide. Like that. And then from there, we'll draw this kind of triangular shape sticking out to the side. And that's going to be the guide for our whole hand. So coming from the circle, we can draw one curved line for the nearest little finger, and from the end of this triangle, one curved line for a thumb. And then all we're going to do is just basically build off this like a domino effect, but you know, for art. So we'll add a bit of like a bump to this, make it look a bit more flashy, bump it out again, narrow it out at the tip, bump out again for the thumb, bring it in as we approach that point where the triangle and the line meet, and then we'll finish there, because we don't know how far this is going to go until we've drawn these fingers, because these fingers could be covering it. They're not, but you know, they could have been. So we'll just etch out this shape a bit more, because that's where the palm bends, and then as we approach this guideline here, we're going to actually draw the shape of a finger, and try and get it into like 3 segments like that. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and then once you've drawn that front little finger, we can start stacking the other fingers on this. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then the index finger just at the very, very back, very obscured. Now that we've got these in place, we're safe to draw this, because we know that those fingers aren't going to be obscuring that, so we actually do have a point in drawing that. And there we go. So I'm going to fix the face a little bit. I've noticed that this doesn't go in quite enough, so I'm just going to kind of chisel out the shape of the face. So even experienced artists don't get it right first time. So if you've made mistakes, don't worry. That is going to be part of the journey forever. Making mistakes in art is very much just a thing with drawing, and you do get used to it after a while. I'm just kind of chiseling out the shape to make it actually look a bit more human, because it was a bit robotic and not real looking a moment ago, a bit mannequin looking. So I'm just chiseling it back a little bit, adding some very, very subtle curves. And if you got this far, this is something all the skippers are definitely going to miss out on. So this is a good little tip for you. So this nose, I'm actually going to bring this down a tiny bit as well, soften the overall shape. And there we go, that face is instantly looking better. All it needed was a little bit of TLC and it was looking so much better. Alright, so if you got this far, congratulations, that is definitely one of the trickier tutorials I've done. I don't think I'm going to add the tattoo on this particular tutorial. There's a lot going on there, and honestly I'm pretty happy with how this looks. So I'm going to go over what I've got with my inking tools. You should do the same, and I'll see you in just a moment.
That is some seriously great work. Good job for following the tutorial to the end. Hope you enjoyed it, and leave me a comment, let me know what you'd like me to draw next time. Join the Discord channel, which has a link in the description below, to share your artwork, get some feedback, and you can talk to me directly too. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more great tutorials just like this one. Until next time.